Hello YouTube, I am Tor and this is my channel Informator. I'm from Norway and I work as an history teacher. Today I thought I was going to comment on American justice system and compare it to the Norwegian one. So the death of Breonna Taylor in Louisville, Kentucky is a source of great unrest in Kentucky these days, and there's been a lot of protests. This is from the New York Times. The death of Breonna Taylor, a black medical worker who was shot and killed by Louisville police officers in March during a botched raid on an apartment, led to wide-scale demonstrations in the spring and summer as the case drew more attention. A grand jury indicted a former Louisville police officer on Wednesday for wanton endangerment for his actions during the raid. No charges were announced against the two other officers who fired shots, and no one was charged for causing Miss Taylor's death. So we had a dramatic case in Norway just recently as well. We don't have many police shootings, but we have some occasionally. And on Monday this week, a man got shot in Norway, in Telemark, after the police entered his house after a distress or like a concern for his mental health. And he had been threatening social workers with an axe. And so when the police entered his apartment, he had charged them with an axe and was shot and killed. So yeah, there's some similarities there. So I wanted to comment on the differences between the American and the Norwegian justice system and give my perspective on how the American system could improve. So from a historical perspective, the Norwegian justice system has taken a lot of inspiration from the United States, going back to the 50s and the 60s, going towards more humane prison facilities and focus on rehabilitation rather than punishment. What I think has happened is that a lot of these more humanitarian perspectives have been reversed in the United States due to political appointed judges and sheriffs and district attorneys, and the implication of having to be elected for these positions. What happens then is that a lot of these candidates feel the need of going after a toughened crime platform for election. In Norway, we have no elected judges or sheriffs or attorneys. The justice system in Norway is self-recruiting, basically. So it's based on merit, and all positions are open for application, and the best candidates will be selected for positions as judges and district attorneys or the equivalent. And therefore we have no populism within the justice system. It's basically all focused on merit and tradition and judicial science. So that leads to the possibility for having a much broader focus on rehabilitation rather than punishment, and also focus on more humane sentencing practices and prison facilities. In America, you also have the issues with the industrial prison for profit complex, that is unheard of in Norway and in the rest of the Nordic countries, as far as I know. All prisons are owned by the government and paid for by taxpayer money. Therefore, there are no incentives to imprison people. It's just an expense. Rather, it's an incentive to release prisoners early, to free up prison cells, and that's the political priority mostly. However, the shooting of Breonna Taylor, it's a part of a much larger racial complex in the United States, and plays into the Black Lives Matter movement and their claims and demands. And one of the issues is, of course, that police officers in the United States have too little training, and much of the training many of them receive is focused on shooting and applying force, basically, how to detain people and so on. In Norway, we have police training that is minimum of 3 years. The first year is like theory and training. The second year is training on the job with the more experienced officers, and the third year is more theory and practical training at the police academy. And there's a much higher focus on sociology and criminology and understanding the roots of antisocial behavior, of criminal behavior. It's also, the police still have some prestige in Norway, and a lot of young kids from middle class families see it as an attractive employer, the police, and they will like train for months and years before to qualify for police academy. So if I was to give some advice to improve the American justice system from a Norwegian perspective, it would be to the two most obvious things would be to set like a federal minimum for police training of perhaps at least 2 years, maybe 3 years, like in Norway. That would also increase the prestige and perhaps also the pay of these jobs. So you can be more selective about which candidates you enter into the program, and therefore increase the quality of the police officers that are educated. The other thing would be to take away all the elected positions in the judicial system and replace it with a like merit-based system like we have in Norway, where you have to apply for all the positions, for judges and for state and district attorneys and sheriffs. Even coroners you elect some places in the United States, which is crazy. It should all be positions that you have to apply for, and it should be a self-recruiting system with the management that appoints the positions based on merit. That would take away the populist toughen crime incentive. And the third thing would be to nationalize all the prisons, make just throw out all the private owners, and make the states or federal government overtake all the prisons and all the parts of the judicial system that might now be privatized or private. There should be no economic incentive for anyone to keep people in prison and to put people in prison. So that was my thoughts. And remember that I'm just a history teacher in Norway. I don't have any education or background in the judicial system, so that's just my opinion. And please comment if you like, and I will join the conversation. Thanks. Have a nice day.